Okay, greetings class. This lecture is going to be on discussion 3.1 and the importance of network documentation and then some ways to secure documentation. So first I wanted to go over how the network looks because I know that you probably haven't been at a business and understand how or what you may see at the business. So to start off, you have this wall jack right here, right? So this is at the user, right? This is in the wall. Behind the wall, you have this this type of, I'll call it like a punch down, where you actually have the cable that goes and runs up into ceilings and back into closets or server rooms, and this patch panel actually goes, patch cable actually goes to the user, right? So this would be plugged into a computer or a phone, VoIP phone, right? So this part you don't see, right? Here's the wall. This is up in ceilings and stuff like that, right? So you have this cable run and all that, and then that goes to the user. So now this is how that punch panel or that punch down works, right? You actually cut the cable and you put the standard in here, and these are color coded, so you just match it, right? And then that cable runs all the way back to a closet or a server room. Now in the server room, it'll connect to something like this, which is called a patch panel. So behind the patch panel looks like this, these similar punch downs, and all these cables that are going through the ceilings to all these wall jacks are going into these patch panels, right? So these all have numbers. The wall jacks, you could number these wall jacks or mark them somehow. So now from this panel, a patch cord comes out and goes into a switch, right? Here's a switch. So it'll go into a port into a switch, right? So for a user to get network connectivity, you have this switch plugged into this panel with a cable running through the ceiling back to this wall jack, and then this patch panel plugged in, right? So it becomes a little bit complex to know and understand what every user is plugged into. You certainly aren't going to remember it, right? So here's the different types of patch panels and fiber, right? And these are just plugged into from the switch to the panel, and then from the wall jack here to the user, right? So this is, it'll be in a rack. So here's your patch panel. Here's the cables that come down and go into that patch panel from the ceiling, right? Now this is with a patch panel to a switch, right? So the black right here is the patch panel. This is a switch right here, right? So, and then this is a fiber connection on that switch, right? So then you got more patch panels, more switch. And what they've done here, which is a good technique, is to color code it. So you have a red switch or an orange switch or a pink switch, green switch, blue switch, right? So this is a way to try to understand, if a user goes out, oh, he's in the red switch and he's a patch panel number 1 to port number 42 to wall jack number 24 or whatever the case may be. So this is a good scenario, right? It's all clean. There's cable management complete. You understand what's going on. But normally what you walk into is something like this. This happens all the time. This is what you see because nobody has time to clean up cables and runs and patch panels and ports. So essentially you have a user that doesn't have network connectivity, and you go into the server room or into the comms closet and you run into some network mess like this, and you say, how in the world can I figure out which patch panel they're in, to which port, to which switch, to which, and then how can I segment that to find out what's bad? There is such a thing called toning, and basically what you do is you'll take this patch panel or patch cable and you'll plug it into a tester, right, on one end, and then on the other end, so one end in the wall jack. So let's say this is plugged into your wall jack. This has your tester, right, and the cable goes up into the ceiling. You find the other end by a toner that it looks like a probe, and it makes a electrical noise once you've found the other end. So that's one way to do it. but certainly another way is to have good documentation, right? So I'm going to show you some documentation that I've created in the past, right? So this is the patch panel, and this is the switch, right? So I didn't do a really good job on the patch panels, right? I didn't keep up with which one goes to what switch. I did, I think, one maybe. But I have short cables, so if I know that I'm plugged into port 17 on this switch, then I could certainly trace the cable to the punch down, right? So I have some documentation, right? So when I walk into some mess, I could say, okay, I have this spreadsheet. Here's switch number 2. Here's where it goes to. Here's switch number 3. Black is not used. So I can tell you that documentation is critical, right? And I have it for, this is my server room. Here's the IT room, IDF1. Different switches and where they are, right? And then different racks and how they stack up, right? So I can tell you that documentation is absolutely necessary if you don't want to spend hours and hours and hours on trying to manage and find where all your stuff is, right? When a user has a network outage, you can immediately find which port they're plugged into, which switch may have a problem, or if you have a chronic problem, you could also go to your documentation to see, well, this keeps going up and down. Maybe it's this patch panel, and I need to do that punch down again, right? Remember, maybe I can go back and just punch it down again and clean that up, right? Or tighten these up right here. So documentation is necessary and absolutely critical to a successful operation. What can you do to protect it? Well, you could put it in a file share, lock that folder down to give access only to you or your team, or you could have a password protected spreadsheet, so you double click to open it and you have to enter a password that only you know to open it, or you can not keep it on the network, right, which is a good idea, because if your network's down and you try to get that documentation, you can't get it, right? So it's on a file share, you can't get to it because the network's down and you need to get to your documentation. So that's the 3 ways, or that's some ways that you could secure your documentation. I can tell you that documentation is necessary, and I've explained the reasons why. Okay, folks, thank you. That's it.